But here comes Jesse's first down, the two-time world champion, not to be denied, going past the champion 3-year-old.
Remington Park, right now.
Welcome back. Remington Park back in action as the Thoroughbreds return Friday, August 23rd, joined to kick off our comeback show for the Thoroughbreds season by Remington track announcer Dale Day. And Dale, great to have racing back in Oklahoma City.
It is, and luckily it looks like the forecast is going to cool things off a little bit by Friday night. We're really excited about that because even though we had a really nice summer in central Oklahoma, we've hit the 100 mark way too many times in the last few weeks. So it looks like we're going to cool off some as the horses get set to compete. We're looking forward to it. It's been a long summer. Glad to get back to it.
Yeah, and we've got a really nice set of races for opening weekend, stakes action on opening night. We'll get to the racing in just a minute. Let's talk about some of the things going on track and off track. That's one of the big reasons that we're doing these shows, to reach some players for Remington Park. So for those in the Oklahoma City area, a couple of special things to look forward to opening night Friday and Saturday as well.
Sure. The early arrivers on Friday night, starting at 6 p.m. Central, and the racing entrance will pick up a Remington Park ball cap. They can enjoy that and wear that around and have a new ball cap to their collection. That starts Friday night while supplies last at 6 p.m. Then Saturday evening, second night of the season, we bring back the Win Play Show Me the Money game. We started that back in the quarter horse season here in the spring. It proved to be very popular. It's free to enter. All you do is sign up, turn in your entry card by the start of race 3 on Saturday night. Select one horse in each of the races 3 through 9. As long as your selection runs first, second, or third, you keep moving on. And if you can run the table, you will win or share in a $2,500 grand prize.
So money there available for free. And speaking of other chances to win some free money, Thorough Enduro. We're not going to kick that off just yet, but this is kind of a mainstay of the Remington meet. It's a chance for people around the country to get involved with the races on a daily basis. That's going to open on September 6th, so a couple weeks for players to kind of get their feet wet and get back in the action before having to jump into the contest.
Yes, I think this is the 8th Thoroughbred season for Thorough Enduro. It's been very popular for quite a while online. And we'd like to start at about the third weekend or so of the season so people across the country, not only here in the Oklahoma market, have a chance to watch Remington for a few weeks and try to get an idea of what's happening. But it will be online. It's free to play, as always. Just go to thoroughenduro.com. I don't believe the game site is just quite ready, but in the next couple of days probably will be. So you can go there, and if it lets you sign in, go ahead and do so. Over $8,000 in prize money. Grand prize is $5,000 once again this year. Thoroughenduro.com, THOROENDURO.com, and play away. It's free to play.
Yeah, and you can get links to that not only on the Remington Park website at remingtonpark.com, but also in all of that horseplayernow.com communication. And on our website, those links to the Thorough Enduro Challenge. You got a couple weeks there. September 6th is when we'll kick that off. Let's talk racing action, Dale. A couple new faces in the jockey colony, I hear.
Yeah, Stuart Elliott, who won the 2004 Kentucky Derby in Preakness with Smarty Jones and just missed the Triple Crown, running second in that Belmont Stakes that year to Birdstone. He's going to be here to ride at Remington Park for the first time ever and on a regular basis. And Stuart's kind of moved around the country quite a bit since his big run in 2004. And he has had good success in recent years at Oaklawn, and he's kind of going back to that. He has a home, I believe, in Kentucky, so he's riding up at Churchill in the Kentucky circuit, but he kind of wants to make this his sort of circuit, if you will, where basically Remington Park takes care of the final 4 months of his year. That leads right into Oaklawn Park in the spring, which then leads right into Churchill Downs for their spring-summer season and kind of rounds out his calendar year. So he's looking to not, I think, travel as much as some jockeys have to every 2 to 3 months. So at this point in his career, he's kind of happy to lessen that load a little bit, but he is still a very active rider, 4,800 plus victories in his career right now, and we expect to see him in the winner's circle quite a bit here. So he'll become the first Kentucky Derby winning jockey to ride on a regular basis at Remington Park. Of course, through the years, we've had Calvin Burrell and others come in here, Mike Smith and so on and so forth, but on a regular basis, he's the first jockey to call Remington Park his home for the season that won a Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Kentucky Derby on the horse side of things. It's not going to take a long time for us to see some Kentucky Derby alums. Opening night, that Governor's Cup last year run on Oklahoma Derby weekend will be the opening night feature. We get Hentz back to defend his title, but a little bit of noteworthy is the fact that Lookin' at Lee shows up at Remington for this one.
Looking at Lee, second in the 2017 Kentucky Derby behind Always Dreaming under a nice rail run under Corey Lanner, I believe, had the ride that year. Looking at Lee, a millionaire now, and he's back in action. He won a stakes race not too long ago at Albuquerque, the Downs at Albuquerque Handicap. He's owned by L&N Racing out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, so they're going to bring one of their top charges here to Remington Park for the first time in Friday night's Governor's Cup. And please note, he's had an additional workout since the original past performances came out. He worked here on Sunday morning, a half on 49.77 seconds in a breeze. So looking at Lee, now age 5, definitely looks ready to go for the Governor's Cup coming up here on Friday night. And he becomes, speaking of Kentucky Derby, the highest placing finisher of a Kentucky Derby to ever start at Remington Park.
So there you go. That's wasting no time getting into the classy action with that Governor's Cup on Friday. And speaking of, a horse that some people who have been following Remington for a few years, before we let you go real quick, Dale, interested, before we started recording this, we were talking about a horse named Smack Smack, who people who followed Remington for several years would maybe remember this guy's name. He's not been heard of for a while, but a long, winding road going to lead him back to the races this season, too.
Yeah, Smack Smack, a multiple stakes winner here at Remington Park. He won the 2013 Clever Trevor Stakes as a 2-year-old. In 2015, he came back and won the Governor's Cup. And he kept on knocking around in the older handicap division through the Midwest for another couple of years. And then in mid-July of 2017, his connections just stopped on him. He's owned by Dreamwalking Farms of Toby Keith fame and trained by Don Von Hemel, who's the patriarch of the Von Hemel training family. And for some reason, they just said, he's having some issues. Let's just give him a break and stop on him. Well, they decided to bring him back into action. I guess he checked out really well early this spring, so he's been training forwardly. He had a comeback race not too long ago at Prairie Meadows in Iowa, running third in Allowance Company. And we expect to see him in an open allowance here at Remington Park not too far into the season. He sits just under $1 million in total career earnings. A very classy horse during his regular time when he was running back about 5 years ago, and it looks like he's picked things back up. He worked here this past Friday morning. I had to look back at the calendar real quick, in a half mile and 48 and 2/5 seconds handling. So now age 8, he looks like he's back on his game, and look for Smack Smack to try to reel him in. He was always a deep closer when he ran before. We'll see if he retained that running style over his 2-year break.
Well, it's a lot of star power in opening weekend at Remington Park. You get the Governor's Cup there with Hentz, with Looking at Lee. You get a Breeders' Cup runner-up on Saturday with Richard's Boy in race number 5. Really good signs here on opening weekend at Remington Park. Thank you so much, Dale, for joining me here. We covered a lot of ground, and we're just getting started. After this, Jerry Shottenkirk and I will be back with some spot highlight previews throughout the entire opening weekend cards at Remington Park. Stick around.
But here comes Jesse's first down, the 2-time world champion, not to be denied, going past the champion 3-year-old.
Remington Park, right now.
Welcome back. Thoroughbreds on the track tonight. We just finished talking with Remington track announcer Dale Day about everything going on, and now it is time to get to the races. From HorsePlayerNow.com, Brian W. Spencer, joined as always for these Remington Park Right Now shows by Jerry Shottenkirk. And Jerry, another opening day. We covered the quarters earlier this year. Thoroughbred action returns to Oklahoma City tonight.
Boy, it is a pleasure to be back working with you. And as always, it's always a pleasure to open the fall thoroughbred season at Remington Park. I came here in Oklahoma in 1987, a year before the racetrack opened, and have been here 32 years. And about half of that was spent as the turf rider for the Daily Oklahoman in Oklahoma City. So I've been around here a little bit, and half of that time has been spent. A lot of it is with Horse Player Now and with the tip sheet at Remington Park. And I got to say, it's opening weekend for the fall season just never gets old. It's just the period where you get past most of August and you see fall on the horizon with good horse racing, and around here, good football. So it's my favorite time of the year.
And I got to tell you, a lot of our listeners, a lot of players that we've come across over the last several years doing these shows with Remington love these Friday night cards. So let's get right to it. The season opener for the Thoroughbreds, Jerry, race number 1, $5,000 claimers. They'll go 1 mile and 70 yards, and you're going to look to the number 7, Unstable, to kick off the meet.
Yeah, we're starting it off with the powerful Danny Caldwell Federico Villafranco connection. We have them a couple times tonight, but starting it off with Unstable. He's the kind of horse you really kind of like from this outfit. They went to Kentucky and claimed him for $7,500. Ran him once up at Prairie Meadows for $20, and now he's in for $5 going long. So I think he'd be very, very difficult to beat here. The 4, Mr. Tickle from the powerful Carl Broberg stable, probably will be favored in here, and you have to give him a lot of consideration. But Unstable to me looks like the one to beat.
Race number 1, and we've already got some of those big names: Villafranco, Broberg. I'm sure we'll get to Asmussen soon here on the first Remington Park Right Now show. That's a look at the opener. We'll be back with more spot plays throughout the weekend right after this.
But here comes Jesse's first down, the 2-time world champion, not to be denied, going past the champion 3-year-old.
Remington Park, right now.
Back here for the first primetime pick 4 of the Thoroughbred season kicks off here in race number 6. It's an Oklahoma bred allowance, non-winners of a race other than. They'll be going 6.5 furlongs, and this brings us to Jerry Shottenkirk's best bet on the Friday program. Morning line 2-1 odds, and what I really like here, Jerry, the number 11, half hours to keep, your best bet on the day, and also a single to kick off that primetime pick 4.
Boy, I really like this horse. Again, this is from the Danny Caldwell Federico Villafranco connections. Ramon Vasquez is up again. Half hours to keep. Looks like a horse that they really had their eye on for a while. This horse was at Oaklawn, where he broke his maiden by 14 lengths for a maiden claiming price of $40,000. And then he eventually slipped off to Churchill Downs, where he ran for $40,000, didn't do too well there, and then came back and at that same track and ran 5th for $16,000. Well, clearly the Caldwell Franco connection had their eyes on this one, because they claimed him. He's an Oklahoma bred, and they bring him back home and run him in a allowance race against state breds. So, this is the kind of thing where clearly they've had an eye on this horse for a similar spot like this. So I really think he's got a real good chance to win in his first local effort.
And whether it's here on the Remington Park Now shows or in night school at Horse Player Now, we always talk about trainer intent, and Jerry's got a great angle for one there when these meets open up and you've got all of a sudden you've got some big Oklahoma bred races to run in. Barns like this may go looking for some Oklahoma breds to fit these spots that they don't have. Jerry's going to go with the number 11, half hours to keep, to kick off that primetime pick 4. That ticket, it's going to be $16. He'll single the 11 in race number 6, move on with the 9 and 6, with the 3, 2, 4, 5, and close it out with the 8, 4, 6, 9. That's a $16 play. Jerry Shottenkirk's primetime pick 4 for that ticket. All of Jerry's selections throughout the entire opening weekend at Remington. Visit RemingtonPark.com.
But here comes Jesse's first down, the 2-time world champion, not to be denied, going past the champion 3-year-old.
Remington Park, right now.
Time for some stakes action here on opening night. Race number 8, the $175,000 Governor's Cup. They'll be going 1 mile and 1/8 on the main track. From HorsePlayerNow.com, Brian W. Spencer and Jerry Shottenkirk previewing these Remington Park spot races over the course of opening weekend. And Jerry, last year this Governor's Cup was run on Oklahoma Derby weekend, hence won it absolutely effortlessly that day. Moves up to opening night here, 7-2 on the morning line, and you're going right back for a repeat with Hence.
I am. Man, I really like Hance. And he likes the racetrack. He's been out twice over Remington Strip and won that race last year. And in the other one, he finished a closing 4th. So Hance is the kind of horse that you have to have some patience with because of his running style. He he drops very far back. And, with a horse like that, you need a lot of things to happen. You need a good pace in front, and then you need to have you need to have a clear trip to get through some traffic. So, and that's what Hintz did last year in this race. I'm looking for him to have another a decent trip, but with a horse like Hintz, it's hard to put all your eggs in one basket as far as looking at the primetime pick four and other exotic wagers. So, looking at this race, I used 4 in the pick 4. The 2 Believe in Royalty ran just a dynamite race last year in the Oklahoma Derby. He got beat a nose by Lone Sailor and beat a couple other really nice horses there. And he's only been out once this year. He ran in a minor stakes race at Ellis Park, where he was, he ran kind of evenly, did pass a couple horses late for fourth. But Larry Jones is another trainer that when he shows up, you have to think that, he's had this one circled. This is his intent to get this one. Last time out was just a 6.5 furlong race, and now this horse stretches out to 9 furlongs. So expect a huge effort out of Believe in Royalty as well. And a couple others I looked in there that cannot be overlooked are the 4 Looking at Lee. He's won more than $1 million for Steve Asmussen, who also has hands here, of course. And the 5 horse Macedo Rojo, you have to be familiar with him, racing mostly down in the Louisiana area. He's won 15 to 23 races. He just won the Evangeline Mile in a real tough effort. He won by a nose. Before that, he won the Sexton Mile at Lone Star. So he's definitely the kind of horse that fits in here. And what I like about him, too, is that he can kind of adjust to whatever pace there is. He can come a little off it, or he can be out front, too. So this is really a tough race. I do like Hintz. I think he might be a little bit of a price here. So it's a great running of this race. It never disappoints. And, we could look forward to another really good Governor's Cup.
Yeah, looking at this, I mean, you've got a field of 6, but a very good field with Hintz. You mentioned Believe in Royalty, who nearly won the Grade 3 Oklahoma Derby last year. Popularity in really good form. Macedo Rojo, been following that guy a little bit. Really nice to see him branching out into some tougher competition, and those running lines very consistent and pretty remarkable to look at. All that said, though, it's Hintz. Jerry hoping to get a decent enough pace to get him home, looking to repeat his title here in the Governor's Cup. That's race number 8, the number 3, Hintz on top for Jerry. We'll come back to look at the last of the day on the Friday card right after this.
So here comes Jesse's first down, the 2-time world champion, not to be denied, going past the champion 3-year-old.
Remington Park, right now.
Time for the Friday night finale, a $15,000 condition claimer, non-winners of 2 races lifetime. They'll be going a mile on the Remington Park turf. From horseplayernow.com, Brian W. Spencer and Jerry Shottenkirk. And Jerry going to close out the night here with what might be a decent little kind of square price with the number 8 Bernardian, 5-1 on the morning line in this one.
I'll tell you, this is a good chance for trainer Steve Asmussen to win the late double. Following Hintz with a Bernardian here. Now, this is the kind of horse that really piques my interest because he was claimed by Steve a couple races back for $7,500, and he ran him back on the turf down at Lone Star for 15, and didn't really get a lot out of him there. Now, coming back his second race for Steve, I think he'll improve a whole lot. And tell you, looking at a horse like this, it really kind of makes you appreciate Steve Asmussen a little bit. He's in the National Racing Hall of Fame, and we've seen him with some of the greatest horses in recent memory. Under his tutelage. But if you look at outside of the huge races that he runs in. He also is a gamer. He'll go in and he'll take his own money and he'll claim horses and he'll move them up almost every time. So, it's kind of a sportsman type deal. as far as he goes. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Jerry Hollendorfer. Jerry Hollendorfer, you'll see him with some of the greatest horses in the country, but you'll also see him run for 4,000 and 5,000
Right.
somewhere. So those guys, they get in, they're in to play the game. So you have to take a look at a horse like this, and I think he'll really move up in this spot. So my money's on Bernardi in the ninth.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've always loved about the Steve Asmussen barn is they've got horses that look like $1 million, whether they're in $1 million race or a $15,000 claimer. Asmussen loves the game, loves to run those horses, and Jerry's going to give him the edge in the opening night finale. Number 8, Bernardian, gets the call in the closer. We'll be back with a few more previews from Saturday's card opening weekend at Remington Park.
And here comes Jesse's first down, the two-time world champion, not to be denied, going past the champion 3-year-old.
Remington Park, right now.
Back with Saturday action at Remington Park. Brian W. Spencer from HorsePlayerNow.com, joined as always by Jerry Shottenkirk. And Jerry, fun opening night Friday card. Let's look at a couple of spot plays on the Saturday program. Your first one going to come in race number 2. Best bet on the program for you, $15,000 claiming company, going a mile on the turf, 2-1 on the morning line. The number 9, Sarabi, gets the call.
Sarabi really looks like she's in a good spot here. She ships in from Louisiana Downs, where she was a real good second in an allowance race. And, she has a couple other really good races on her form. She's won 3 of her last 5. She's in for 15,000. That seems like a really good level for her. So looks like another victory for Steve Asmussen. We have him a couple times tonight, and we also have Donnie Von Hemel selected. So we have a couple of the track's all-time leading trainers on the menu tonight, so to speak. So we're getting it started with the 9-horse Arabi in the second.
That's Jerry's call there in race number 2. Couple more spot plays coming up later on the Remington Park card. Stick around for those right after this.
And here comes Jesse's first down, the two-time world champion, not to be denied, going past the champion 3-year-old.
Remington Park, right now.
Remington Park Saturday race number 5. Brian W. Spencer and Jerry Shottenkirk from Horse Player Now, and we're going to jump into this one. It's an allowance race, no conditions here, going 5 furlongs on the turf, and a name you're going to recognize, but maybe not one you expected to see here at Remington. The number 7, Richard's Boy, moves into the barn of Steve Asmussen here, and Jerry, this one, classy guy with some big back running lines. That being said, he's been beaten 52 lengths in his 3 races so far this year.
Well, I tell you what, Richard's Boy, you see a horse like him jump up in the middle of a card on a Saturday, it really kind of gets your attention. This is the Edmund Turf Sprint. It's an allowance race for 40,000. It's, for all intents and purposes, it's a stakes race, and you really have a whole lot of nice horses in here. Richard's Boy. If you look down at his past performances, you see he was in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint last year, where, he was right very close to the lead for a half mile. And, if you can do that against the top turf sprinters in the world, I mean, you have some talent. It didn't end up well for him since he was 14th there, but he's the kind of horse that you really have to be careful when you look at the final margin of defeat, because he's a speed horse, and if he gets in a race where it's simply not his day and he falls back a little bit, well, a horse like him, they won't ask him to do a whole lot lately. And I guarantee he's been trotting home toward the finish in his last 3, because he just gave up the fight early. But going 5 furlongs against this company, I think he's got a real good chance to never give up the lead in this one. But that being said, this is a really tough spot. You have the favorite 3, number 3, Zoot Suit from Carl Broberg, was an easy winner last time out at Lone Star. He's won 3 of his last 4, and he's just a quality type allowance horse. I think I don't think he has the class of Richard's Boy, but he does have his recent form is pretty superior to his. So it'll be interesting to see when those two get together. If I could add on to Richard's Boy, if he wins this race, he goes over $1 million in earnings through 39 starts, and this would be his 10th win if he gets it done. Zoot, real nice horse, has won a couple $100,000, and he's just really good right now. So you have to take a look at him. And if I could throw in another one, the old timer, the 6 Perfect to Please, the really honest Oklahoma bred. He's the kind of horse that you think just when you think he might be a little overmatched, he almost always comes back with a big effort. I've seen it so many times. He's been here since his 2-year-old season. He's won over $500,000. So Perfect to Please. If those two horses get out front and run each other into the turf, Perfect to Please is the kind of horse that can pick up some pieces late. So if you're looking for a little bit of a price in your exotic wagers, that might be the one to look at.
Yeah, and you've got a really good race, as Jerry said. A lot of different ways you can go. Richard's Boy nearly won the Breeders' Cup a couple years ago, and interesting to me to see, too, if we're going to get a chance on a square price at Richard's Boy, 9-2 on the morning line. I'd take something a little shorter than that, especially because even with the dull form, Asmussen saw fit with Clark Brewster to pay $40,000 for him to try to get him turned around, and they show up here with Richard's Boy. This could be a potential wake-up call for him. Gets top billing for Jerry Shottenkirk, the number 7 Richard's Boy, in Saturday's 5th at Remington.
But here comes Jesse's first down, the 2-time world champion, not to be denied, going past the champion 3-year-old.
Remington Park, right now.
Saturday finale at Remington Park, race number 9, Oklahoma bred Maiden Company going 6 furlongs. From HorsePlayerNow.com, Brian W. Spencer and Jerry Shottenkirk. And Jerry, we've talked about some of the big names so far over the course of this opening weekend. The Villafranco team, the Asmussen team. We're going to see a lot of those big names, a Broberg team throughout the season. But you're going to go to one who, another big name, but who's going to give us a potential big number here in the Saturday finale. Going to look outside to the number 14. Why Not Okie, 20-1 on the morning line. Dull debut last year, returns with the addition of Lasix and as a gelding here.
Well, I'll tell you, you look at all the really good horsemen here. The Asmussens and Villafrancos and the Brobergs. Before any of those guys were around here, there was a fellow by the name of Donnie Von Hemel. And he's to be taken seriously in any spot. His stable isn't as dominant as it once was, but that's mainly because he's spread out to various ports in the country. So he has his Oklahoma breds here, and I think that the 14 Why Not Okie has a really good chance for the reasons you mentioned. Mainly because he's Lasix 1 and he's a gelding this time around. He's also been training steadily. In his last work, I really kind of like it. He was a minute and 4/5 for 5 furlongs out of the gate, which means they probably got some speed out of him with his coming back this year. And I really think that he has a real good opportunity to make giant strides here. So Why Not Okie, I think, is the one to beat here. Of course, you have a couple others in here. The 9 Cash in the Ticket, who beat Why Not Okie in his only race last year. This one gets played quite a bit. Been a disappointment most of the time to people, in their wallets, but he has been running fairly well in his career. He looks like he's close to breaking his maiden, but he's been in this spot before. And also the 4-horse Speaker Band, that's another Donnie Von Hemel horse. He makes his first start, and he's had a couple decent works. So this is a pretty open race. And in such cases, I really look for a price, and I think I'm definitely going to get it with the 14 Why Not Okie.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, Why Not Okie more or less you got to be treated as a first-time starter. They kind of threw the kitchen sink at this one between the dull debut and here, and going to be one of the 3 horses Jerry uses to close out that primetime pick 4. Got to back up to race number 6 in order to play that one. That primetime pick 4 goes in race number 6. Jerry's got an $18 play, 7-4-5 with the 1-7, with the 5-4, with the 14-9-4. If you need to catch that ticket or get any other of Jerry's suggested plays here on opening weekend at Remington, go to remingtonpark.com. Appreciate you listening to this opening weekend show with us here at Remington. We'll be back again next weekend with spot plays throughout the weekend. Visit remingtonpark.com and horse player now.